Hi everyone, new video for you. I've decided to call this Ninja Game of Thrones. Now the reason I've called it Ninja Game of Thrones is because I presume you've all seen the TV series Game of Thrones, and everybody is vying for the top seat. Who is the best in in the world? Who's number one? If you're new to the ninja community, my name is Anthony Cummins and I'm a historical researcher, author and TV co-presenter. And there's a gentleman who used to work alongside me called Stephen Nojiri. Now, he recently put, let's just say, a rant on his Facebook page, but he had some good points, to be honest, and it's provoked this video. So the reason I'm saying this is just to basically bounce off what he said. If you want to know what he said, I've put it below. If he's not happy with me copying and pasting here, I'll take it down. So if it's gone, that's why. But apart from that, I'm sure he'll be okay with it, and I just want to address some of the points he goes through because I think they're valid points. I really do. Okay, so Stephen is a little bit upset because the ninja community in the world are literally vying to who will sit on the Iron Throne. It's like, who is going to be the king? And so his issue is that everybody's goal and agenda is to become to sit on this top seat, and that the actual research of ninjutsu has fallen away, and that instead of approaching ninjutsu as a self-development or as an academic study or in the correct way we should approach it, he is saying that everybody is just approaching it to promote themselves, for self-profit, for basically all the wrong reasons. So is he right? Is he not right? Well, this is a problem. I agree with him that, to be honest, the world of ninjas, everybody wants to be seen as like the #1 ninja, and throughout the 80s and the 90s it was like, I'm the last ninja, I'm the last ninja, he's the last ninja. And I started, because of this, I started the historical ninjutsu research team. Stephen used to be a member, and we produced books, we published Bansen, Shukai, Shoninki, Shinobi Hiden. We've translated and published loads of ninja documents. Now, the reason I did this was to get rid of the Game of Thrones element, is that if most people withheld information because they knew somebody who read Japanese, basically, or they had a basic understanding of Japanese, and they would be able to look at the old books from the 1950s, 60s in Japan, they would then just drip out this information, and people would be like, oh, they must know the truth about ninjutsu. So I've literally come along and gone, here is the actual manuals, they're all translated in English, it's all original, which has stopped that. Nobody can now drip feed the information because people are like, well, actually, just go to the bookshop and buy it. So that is what I have done towards stopping this Game of Thrones idea. But it has not quite worked. It has stopped people going around pretending to be real ninjas to a certain extent. But what it has done, of course, is then they've adopted these teachings that we've recorded, and they've then said, oh, this is what we've always known, which is utter rubbish, to be honest. It's absolute rubbish, because if you actually went back and tracked their internet stuff, you're like, no. So that doesn't work. But Stephen's other issue is that people are not approaching ninjutsu from a contextual point of view. They won't put it in its place. So what it means is that ninjutsu was inside the human world, and it was inside a specific place, Japan. And Japan was under a specific regime at the time. It was under military dictatorship or military rule, and it wasn't, a democracy at the time. And he's saying that there's so many layers of human elements inside of ninjutsu that you can't detach ninjutsu from the human part, and that but people from the West or wherever, no, not just from the West, from everywhere, even including Japan, are just coming along, they're picking ninjutsu out and saying, this is ninjutsu. And they literally say, we are ninja and we float in this ninja bubble. And Stephen's saying, no, absolutely not. It's got to be inside of that web, that network that is Japanese culture at a very specific time in a very specific sort of area with very specific families or schools. Now, he's totally right. He's 100% correct here. Is that people, and I've been trying to say this. Well, I've said it many times, and we're slightly successful. Is that ninjutsu is part of Japanese warfare. Japanese warfare is, samurai warfare. But samurai is a specific rank. Ninjas come into that, they come below that, they come inside of it. They're literally, ninjas are interwoven into that. So for a long time now, I've been saying that people who study ninjutsu should not be considering themselves separate. They should consider themselves studying Koryu, if you like, or old samurai traditions, because that's where ninjutsu lies. Not all ninja were samurai. Some ninja were foot soldiers. Later on, after 1600, you're looking at most ninja being half samurai, if not low-level people, because their time was over. They were very, very much active at a specific point. They were lingering on in the Edo period, but most people try to emulate the Edo period and then mix ninjutsu in and then take it out and put it up here. That's Stephen's problem. Nobody is putting it back where it belongs and looking at the timeline and saying where should it be and what should be happening. So Stephen is upset that everybody's trying to mount the Iron Throne and everybody's trying to get on it. Get off! You know, it's mine. I am the head ninja dude. And he's also saying that basically, let me just check my notes. So ninjutsu is not separate from Japan. It's not separate from the samurai. You can't say like, you know, I am following ninja ways. No, you follow samurai ways. But inside of that is ninjutsu. It's one element of the samurai way. And of course, not all ninja were samurai. We've said that. He has a big issue with ownership. This is the idea of nobody understands the concept that ninjutsu cannot be owned. You can't own ninjutsu. I've done a video on this more detailed. You can fool people to think you own ninjutsu, but nobody owns ninjutsu. Ninjutsu is a long dead tradition that died a long time ago that has pretty much sparked interest across the world, and for a few decades now has pretty much become an icon of Japan. And but the element is anyone can have a go at it, anyone can study it. It's nothing to do with hand-to-hand combat. It's more to do with strategy, deception, and anyone can get involved. And of course, Stephen is arguing, saying everybody's trying to own it. So instead of trying to engage with ninjutsu, instead of trying to engage with Japanese culture, they are trying to take one section of it, rip it out, own it, and then when they've owned it, climb to the top and sit on the throne. That's what he's angry about. And lastly, is one of his main points is behavior. That everybody who seems to get involved in ninjutsu just suddenly doesn't behave correctly. They decide they're not going to function as normal, polite human beings, and they're going to become cretinous trolloids of the internet, which, to be honest, is totally correct. Ninja students, on the whole, generally are just rude online. They are elitist, sort of self-promoting, opposition-hating people. So what needs to happen is that we need to understand that basically. Let me go through these points now and put it back. So what a person should be doing if they want to get involved in ninjutsu research is, first of all, having an understanding of academic process and not just random, crappy research. They've got to go through some form of understanding of how correct research works. Then you've got to have a bit of an understanding about Japan. Nobody's saying everybody should be an expert in every part of Japanese history. It'd be impossible. Nobody is. Academics get things wrong all the time. People get things wrong. History is forever shifting. But you have to understand that ninjutsu is placed inside of another country's history, and they didn't wear black karate gis with karate belts with like fans made from China in. Right? Basically, that's the key. It's just a hodgepodge of stuff. So what we have to do is realize that ninjutsu comes from this very, specific, very rich, very rigid at times culture, or very violent, and it has a lot of attached connotations that people are unaware of. But that doesn't matter if you're unaware of them. The point is that you strive to go in the right direction. Then, of course, is stop trying to own ninjutsu. You don't need to own it. You just need to engage with it. And then behavior is correct. And people generally... So, for example, it's like in the 1980s, football, English football I'm talking here, was just full of hooligans. You would get literally... Pubs were being burnt down. Cars were being turned over. If somebody was in the wrong colour shirt, they would be killed. It's like... What? People over a sport? And people in the ninja community are on that vein. They are literally saying, what? Your patch doesn't say our system? In fact, not only that, it is our system, but an offshoot branch from a different master. You must die! You know, you're like, what? So, guys, out there, if you're interested in ninjas, right? If you like ninjas, you should first appease Stephen Nojiri by placing an altar in your room with a picture of Stephen on and praying to him every day and saying, Stephen, we are sorry. We apologise greatly. And then hopefully Stephen will fall off his wooden horse and join us common folk back here on the battlefield, because Stephen is one of those, and I'm talking to you directly, Mr. Nojiri. You are one of those battle brothers that left the field of battle and left your comrades on it, bleeding, wounded. So, Mr. Nojiri, get off your high horse and jump back on the battlefield. So, after you've set up your altar to Stephen and he's, rejoined the rest of the human race, basically, guys, just have a rethink about how you look at ninjas. That would be great. Just remember you're studying samurai culture, but you're studying espionage and commando tactics inside of samurai culture. Try and pull away from that ninja icon that was created for, modern media. Then probably behave a little bit better. And instead of trying to own ninjutsu, try and engage with it. By that I mean like study it, understand it, adapt it. Remember other people have their ninjutsu. Now, in ancient Japan, there was not one set of ninjutsu. Other people had their ninjutsu. It all revolves around similar points. You can understand what is ninjutsu. There's a blurred edge to what ninjutsu is, but it's got a similar idea. And you can tell what is definitely not ninjutsu. You can tell what is definitely ninjutsu. And there's a blur in the middle of what crosses that line. So remember that even in ancient Japan, people had their own ninjutsu. And then it was a little bit, not different, but alternative to the opposition. So don't mind that in today, people who are not using it for a profession, who are just studying it, may have a different version than you. And as long as that's ninjutsu, that's fine. So guys, let's all now chant together and appease the angry god of Nojiri and bring him back. But to be honest, Nojiri, we don't mind that you've gone. That's not a problem. Ninjutsu is not one of the things that should hold people if they're not interested in it. If they don't want to do it, in my opinion, I have been doing this for many years now. But years is never, like people say, I've done martial arts for this many years. It's irrelevant. It's what have you achieved in those years. I have been doing ninjutsu, if you want, or thought I was doing ninjutsu, from about the age of 19. And I've been interested in it since, as far as I can remember, but I started joining the first club there. But I'm 37, so you're looking at nearly 20 years you're coming up to it, but of actual practice, but all of my life in being interested in it. But actually, only the last 8 years have been functional. The last 8 years have been productive. Because 8 years ago I was like, what? This is rubbish. This is wrong. And I started my crusade and we've done it. So guys, if you remember, there are real manuals out there now. It's in the links below. You can go read them. This is what ninjas used to say. This is what ninjas used to do. You don't need anyone out there who's alive to tell you what they are. Why don't you go and ask a dead ninja? Because their words are now on Amazon, in the bookshops. They're all around. Right, guys, I hope you enjoy that. I want you to comment down below and just think of ways that we can change ninjutsu to be a better hobby, or a better... It's not really a hobby to people who follow ninjutsu. People who follow ninjutsu, it's more than a hobby. But how can we make ninjutsu a better art today for people? Right, guys, my name is Anthony Cummins. I'm an author. We've got books out. You want to read it, it's all below. Enjoy Stephen's rant below. It's quite correct, but there's, as I've explained, why. And I will see you in the next video.